Please bow your head. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together tonight to make these decisions that are so important to our community and our children especially. Give us the strength to do what's right and what's best for them. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Excuse me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Carney. Do we have any special recognition this afternoon?
We have none, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Public participation? Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All in, motion properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Need a motion also to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll move into the superintendent's report. So with that, we'll start off. Dr. Carpenter.
Dr. Carpenter.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing to add from the previous one?
No, sir.
Nothing to add. Any comments or questions from any of the board members on the superintendent's report, item 1 and 2? If no comments, well, let's have a motion, please, to approve the superintendent's report.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next one is curriculum and instruction.
Yes, we have in addition the Common Core presentation.
Okay.
And that brings forth Lee Peck, our Executive Director for School Improvement. Lee.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Let's see if we can pull this up. We're going to be talking to you this evening about the Common Core in Newton County. We're going to start with the history of the Common Core. Beginning in the spring of 2009, the governors and the state commissioners of education from 48 states, 2 territories, and the District of Columbia committed to develop a Common Core of state K-12 English language arts and mathematics standards. The Common Core State Standards Initiative is a state-led effort coordinated by the National Governors Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers with the assistance from Project Achieve, the ACT, and the College Board and the SAT. Why the Common Core? Well, it's really to prepare. The standards articulate college and career readiness. They will help ensure students acquire the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in post-secondary education and training as well as the workforce. Competition, the standards are actually internationally benchmarked. Common standards will help ensure our students are globally competitive. Clarity, the standards are focused, coherent, and clear. Clear standards help students and parents and teachers understand what is expected of them. Why Common Core? Equity. Expectations are consistent for all, not just dependent on a student's state of residence. Collaboration. The standards create a foundation to work collaboratively across states and districts for the first time, pulling resources and expertise to create curricular tools, including textbooks, professional development, common assessments, and other materials. Opportunities for aligned and connected systems. Common standards is a common thread among current and evolving national initiatives and opportunities. It's standards, your instruction, and your assessment. Common Core state standards were developed based on the strength of current standards across many states. The Common Core state standards are designed to be focused, as I said before, coherent, clear, and rigorous, internationally benchmarked, anchored in college and career readiness, evidence and research-based. They're ready for immediate entry into the workforce, should a student to choose to enter the workforce, or ready for first-year credit bearing post-secondary coursework in mathematics, and English without the need for remediation should a student choose the college option. Intentional design limitations, what the standards do not define, how teachers should teach, all that can or should be taught, the nature of advanced work beyond the core, the interventions needed for students well below grade level, the full range of support for our English language learners and our students with special needs. Everything needed to be college and career ready. Now, Georgia and the Common Core. The Thomas Fordham Institute's report reflected that Georgia Performance Standards was a good match for the Common Core. Georgia created Common Core crosswalks that aligned the Common Core with the Georgia's performance standards in English language arts and math. The Georgia Performance Standards provide our teachers with an excellent tool to prepare our students. The Common Core integrates much of the Georgia Performance Standards, but also takes it a step further, creating an opportunity to even better prepare our students for college and work. Hence, that is the CCGPS. It's demonstrating a clear integration. The CCGPS implementation. Well, we had the Georgia Department of Education supplied resources, the Newton County school system. We did curriculum mapping, resources, we'll talk about resources, unit development, benchmarks, analyzing results, and our next steps for the future. First of all, we'll start with our professional learning from the Department of Education. Teachers viewed ELA and Math Common Core Georgia Performance Standards webinars that were conducted by the Georgia Department of Education in the fall of 2011 and spring of 2012. The webinars provided teachers the opportunity to ask questions and interact with the trainers. They also posted content frameworks. Now we're moving on. What did we do in Newton County? Well, in elementary, school level trainings with our district instructional coach and math and ELA. We had a consultant working with all schools with the team leaders at each grade level to look at the Common Core, Georgia Performance Standards, and the depth of knowledge, the DOK. Text complexity was discussed, and teachers selected texts that were aligned with the appropriate lexile level. Our secondary schools, well, the district instructional coaches also led grade level specific workshops to examine the Common Core standards that teachers were provided notebooks containing the Common Core. Teachers attended a 3-day content-specific workshop for the implementation of Springboard in ELA and math. Now we're moving on to curriculum mapping. All of our content specialists and leaders developed curriculum maps in all subject areas to ensure that all of our Common Core Georgia Performance Standards were taught and assessed throughout the 2012-2013 school year. All impact curricular areas address the literacy standards through their content areas: science, foreign language, social studies. A core group of Springboard teachers created curriculum maps that addressed the Common Core while using Springboard as the tool to deliver the Common Core Georgia Performance Standards. Teachers create notations and suggestions for the improvement of the curriculum maps. Now let's look at our resources that we've used to roll out to teach our Common Core. For elementary, the children's literature was selected based on the appropriate text complexity band and cross-curricular connections, meaning we looked at trying to add in our science and social studies standards during our language arts block. Last year, Go and Encore Math was purchased to supplement the Department of Education unit frameworks. And secondary, Springboard. It's aligned to the Common Core state standards, and it's also written by the College Board, and that was purchased in May of 2012. Supplemental resources for our secondary teachers are housed on each teacher's desktop. Unit development. For elementary, we developed units using the Learn and Focus Schools planning model. We also had small groups of grade level teachers create ELA units around text that was in the appropriate complexity band. We had research-based instructional strategies and common assessments included in the units. Now in math, we use the Georgia Department of Education units. It includes appropriate tasks for our teachers to teach to develop a deeper understanding of the Common Core Georgia Performance
Lee,
Standards.
quick clarification for the board. Tell us just a little bit about what Focus Schools planning model is.
Okay, the Learn and Focus planning model is just a model of going in an organized fashion, starting off with the essential question, making sure that your students understand what they're supposed to be learning for the day or for the unit. There's a student learning map that goes with that. The research is out there that supports that students need to know the focus of the instruction. So it goes into that, and it talks about activating strategies. It's a very sequential planning model that really is research-based and shows that it increases student achievement when teachers really look at what they're planning and they go in a really concise order.
Thank you.
Secondary also developed using the Learning Focus Schools planning model. Teachers reviewed units of instruction in their grade level professional learning communities. Their instructional coaches provide a great deal of modeling to the teachers to include the development of lesson plans. Also, research-based instructional strategies are embedded throughout the Springboard units. Well, we wanted to do benchmarks to see what our students have learned. So our benchmark development for elementary, we use the Georgia Online Assessment System, which is called the OAS. It's a computer system. It addresses the Common Core Georgia Performance Standards that are taught on the curriculum map for all content areas. We benchmark 3 times a year, and we've rolled out when each standard would be taught and when it will be assessed. So we look at that. For first and second, we're only looking at ELA and math. Third through fifth, we're looking at all content areas. For secondary, the instructional coaches led the content specialists through the development of updated benchmarks for the Common Core Georgia Performance Standards. Benchmarks are administered via ThinkGate for secondary. Benchmarks address standards taught on the curriculum map. Now, after we do the benchmarks, do we analyze the results? Yes, we definitely analyze the results. As a district, we disaggregate all the school results by the standard and question. The school administrators conduct data talks to identify different strategies and interventions to support continuous improvement. Benchmark results are discussed in district and school level grade content PLCs, and plans for interventions are developed for students who are not demonstrating progress toward mastery of the Common Core Georgia Performance Standards. Our content specialists work with their colleagues to identify necessarily curricular adjustments. What are our next steps? Well, for elementary, we want to write math units for the 2013-2014 school year. Our teachers have been very excited about the ELA units. And even though we're using the GDOE math units, some of the instruction and the scaffolding has been left out, and teachers are actually asking us to do this. So we're probably going to use the same process that we did for ELA for math. We're going to teach the ELA units with fidelity to ensure that students have a deeper understanding of the Common Core. We're going to continue to provide professional learning for our teachers, addressing the Common Core, to help our teachers understand the content and what the standard is actually asking them to teach. How to use the research-based instructional strategies to teach the content for a deeper understanding. That is what Common Core is all about, is to teach it at a level of a much deeper understanding than what we're used to. For secondary, our next steps are to teach all the units in Springboard with fidelity to ensure students have a deeper understanding of the curriculum. We will also continue to provide professional learning for teachers led by Springboard personnel to enable teachers to understand the content and to implement the most appropriate instructional strategies. I hope I didn't go too fast. We wanted to give you an update to let you know where we were at in the curriculum and instruction department, to let you know what was provided by the state, what we've done here in Newton County to help transition to the Common Core for our teachers and for our students. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
I have one for clarity, please. You mentioned the trainers. Is that, we're in the process of we've gotten trainers or trained the trainers thus far?
Well, we've had our instructional coaches train. We've had people come in. We've had some people from the DOE come in and do some training. We're looking at, possibly looking at Griffin RESA to provide more training in the area of math. We've talked about that today with the principals, the elementary principals. They're thinking that some more training in that area. So yes, we are definitely.
You have a timeline? Because
we got to look at contacting Griffin RESA. They're very busy, and a lot of times they don't come out to school systems. The schools have sent a group of teachers to Griffin RESA to these classes. They felt like they were very beneficial, but of course all of the teachers didn't get it. So the teachers come back and they re-deliver to the other teachers, but a lot of times when they re-deliver, you lose some of the validity of the class. But we're definitely going to see if we can get somebody to come out, but it's just availability because they're very busy. So
one other question, the curriculum mapping. Is that done building level or district level for each subject? And we're going to assign a person to do that at the building level by subject?
Yeah, we do at district level. We have our content specialists with our content leaders, which are represented by all the schools, and they get together and they create the curriculum map. They sit down with the instructional coaches and they go through and they map it out. And then it goes back to the schools and then re-delivered to all the teachers, and it's on the computer desktop. And the principals and assistant principals go over the curriculum map with the teachers as well.
So the whole system is coordinated?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Not that many. I just have a question about the Springboard. I remember when the guy came and did a presentation along with Ms. Fury about it. And so since it seems to be really in tune with the Common Core and mapped out already, what has been the feedback from the secondary teachers regarding that? Like,
well, we've had lots of feedback. Do you want to come? I can.
Sure. We've had lots and lots of feedback and plenty of opportunities to work with our teachers with the Springboard tool. It's different, and it's a different way of teaching, and so sometimes they're not jumping for joy about that, but what we're doing to ease that transition is providing as much support as we possibly can. For example, we are teachers right now in grades 6 through 9 in mathematics this week are at the Newton College and Career Academy working with Springboard personnel to go deeper into the text to see how it scaffolds and how it directly aligns to the standards, and actually pulling the text apart to say this activity ties directly to the standard, and you're going to see this. So it's really scaffolding but it's very different than what our math teachers particularly are accustomed to doing. So I would say the transition for them has been more difficult than the English teachers. The English teachers are really jumping for joy and very excited. Our high school teachers really love Springboard, our middle school teachers as well. Math is very different though, so it's not the traditional, here's how you do it, and then here's 50 problems. It's real world application, and you have to understand math, not just be able to plug numbers into a formula to get an answer. You've got to know why you're doing it, and that's very different. It really teaches our kids to think as you work through all these problems. So it's just a little bit different.
Okay. That was going to be actually touched on some of my next question. Okay. But for secondary, so I guess, Lee, you can add for elementary, what has been the feedback with making the change to the Common Core? And I guess you kind of touched on earlier what we're doing with some teachers that are having that difficulty with that change as well, considering the state did like 2 webinars before implementing.
The webinars weren't that great.
Yeah.
They never are.
In fact, it overwhelmed the teachers even more. So what we had to do was we had to kind of when I got the position, gosh, at the end of April, I had to assess where we were. And so I hit the ground running, and I had some people come in and do some training and looking at, what is expected. What was expected before, what is expected now, and trying to get them to understand that they're looking for real life application, deeper understanding. And college and career readiness is not just a secondary term.
Right.
We've been talking about it a lot in elementary. I've been talking to the teachers about Springboard, what Springboard, is, what it has in it. It's been written by the College Board, and how we had to really refine what we're doing and making sure that it's in line. I'm not so sure we've always been in line with secondary, so I think this year that we've worked really close to make sure that we have it refined from K-12, that it's not a K-5 and a 6-12. So we really went through, and they were so overwhelmed with what they were given by the DOE that I said, okay, this isn't going to work. So we pulled in grade level teachers, and we looked at what they provided, and then we filled in what we know is research-based teaching in Newton County. So what we did was we pulled it all apart, and we tried to add what they didn't put in, which was the teaching and the scaffolding. It was just a lot of stuff to do. And they felt like there's no teaching going on. I'm not teaching children how to read. The text complexity is more difficult. You'll hear Lexile levels. The new CCRPI is looking at Lexile levels, how our students are performing. Are they exceeding, not just meeting? And usually, as a principal, we wanted to see that meets.
Right.
800 exceeds, great, but now it's a different, it's a different accountability system. And we're preparing kids to go to college and not have to take remedial English. So the text complexity really was, it had decreased over the last 50 years, if you read the research, and we're having to really bump that up. Very difficult for the kids, difficult for the teachers. And so I'm teaching them, you gotta juggle it. It's like a puzzle. You gotta expose them to it, but then you gotta teach them on their level as well. So there's gotta be a really good balance. So learning that balance right now is where we are. We're learning how to do this and put it together and make it into something that they feel comfortable with and know that their students are being challenged as well as learning at the same time.
Okay, so looking at the curriculum maps and looking at how the Common Core is, whereas a lot of times it's not just one standard you're mastering at one time. It's a whole bunch of things thrown together that you have to master. And it may skip a couple of steps because I guess we are behind Georgia. When I say we, I mean Georgia are behind in the education field. Do teachers have that flexibility when they're teaching whatever that standard is ironed out for that week or that specific time frame, and they feel like the students have missed the steps and there wasn't a clear transition?
Right.
Do they have that flexibility?
Yes, they do. They have that flexibility, and the units are the bare whole group essentials. Here's your standard. Here's some things to do. Here's to scaffold to try to teach it. Here's some assessment prompts to see if the kids are learning it or not. We've got to find out if the students are learning what we're teaching. we can't wait till we benchmark. We have to do it right then and there. We've got to decide, okay, these kids don't get it, I need to give them something else. So we've given them that foundation, but they're to plan their small groups. They're to look at their kids and say, okay, now these kids have got to be working on their reading level. Because what we're hearing is the books are too hard. They're hard, you know, they are hard, but we've got to expose them to it. I remember in my school at Herd Mixon when the GPS came out for math, my teachers were saying they can't do it, they can't do it, they can't do it. But if you don't expose them to it, they're never going to be able to do it. But when I showed them that yes, they can do it, if you provide them scaffolding and some strategies, then all of a sudden our scores went through the roof. So it's just letting them know we've got to expose them to it. We can't just say, oh, they can't do it, so let's put it away. There's got to be a good balancing act and getting that out and giving the support to the teachers and letting them know, yes, you have the flexibility. These are your kids. I don't know your kids. I'm not with them all day.
Right.
So if she's teaching the same thing I'm teaching, we may be in a different place. Her class may be 2 or 3 lessons ahead, and my class may still be, we're still working on this, they didn't get this. So there's that flexibility and pacing with their own, you know, they've got to follow it with their own students.
And let me ask you a question based on what you just said. With those teachers that are not getting it, just they cannot figure out how to scaffold it and how to create it where it will meet every student,
Right.
so they'll understand it. Are they having that dialogue in their learning communities, or is there some
They
other
are.
opportunity?
They are. I was actually at Livingston Elementary participating in a PLC meeting. The teachers, this was I think 2nd grade, 2nd and 3rd, the teachers actually bring the unit and they talk about what they're going to teach. Oh, I didn't understand it that way. Is that what that means? Okay. Oh, I thought it meant this. So it's that dialogue where we can't do it in isolation anymore. We've got to do it together. And they were actually teaching each other exactly what the standard was. And in math, they were learning how to add and subtract without doing it the way we did it, you know, because they don't learn that way with the algorithm. They've got to start learning it with concrete manipulatives. They actually had the manipulatives out on the table, and one teacher was showing them the strategy of this is how you do it. And they were like, oh, I would have never thought of that. And they were like, oh yeah, you know, that's how I teach my kids how to do it. And that's the kind of thing that has to happen in our schools. They've got to talk through the material. It can't be, I'm going to my class and I'm going to do page 1 today. I've got to talk, I've got to figure it out. We've got to all be on the same page. If we don't, we're not. It's not equitable,
Right.
you know, for our students. So yes, it's definitely something that we're doing.
Do teachers have the opportunity to cross-train, like, let's say they're having that dialogue within their learning communities at their specific school building, but then is there a leader within that community or somehow that they can meet with another, say, math teacher or English language arts teacher from another school and have that dialogue?
That is a wonderful question. We actually this year have instituted our curriculum coordinators. So we have 14 ELA curriculum coordinators. This is the first year that we did it. And actually the 14 first grade English language arts teachers get together and they actually have dialogue and conversation. All the schools get together.
Okay,
and they actually sit in a room and they talk about what they're teaching, frustrations. I've sat in on some of those. And very powerful. And they give resources. They're emailing each other. We've got some sites on SharePoint where they're putting things for science and social studies. I found this PowerPoint. I found this activity. I think they really have liked being able to share resources from school to school. I really feel like we're 14 schools together. Not I'm going to do it my way and you're going to do it your way, and we're not really going to talk and try to plan together. So that has helped a lot as well.
Ms. Baker, there are 14 content coordinators for each grade level for each subject area.
Each subject area.
So you have 14 K content coordinators, 14 first, 14 second, just in reading, ELA, and math and science.
Science and social studies.
And those folks receive a stipend that is funded by Title II federal funds. So it's not a great big stipend, but certainly has pulled, and it's not just in the elementary schools. We have content specialists and leaders in the middle and high schools as well. And I think that's really made a difference in our implementation.
Is that new this year?
For the content leaders and specialists, no. What we've done differently is the elementary schools. What was happening is there was one elementary kindergarten rep at Herd Mixon maybe, and then the first grade was at Flint Hill, and the second grade was at a different school. So only those schools were getting the information. So we had to realign and really put 14 people assigned to each grade level by content area. So I think it's been real beneficial for us.
Sam, I want to add for the board's knowledge that as we've pointed out, as we've done some comparative studies, our central office staff is lean, and understandably so in these economic times. But I really want to commend publicly both Ms. Fury and Mr. Peck. They have, in an extraordinary way, utilized those on the front line, our teachers, in the development of our curriculum and surely its delivery. And I think they've done it in a very effective manner that involves more teachers than ever. And as our teachers grow and learn, so do our children. And I think that's something that we must not lose sight of. And I think both of these individuals are to be greatly commended in that regard. And let's not mess that up.
Can I also add something that we found out? Our instructional coach, Miss Lisa Stewart, is a trainer for Learning Focused Schools. She was at a training, when was it, a couple weeks ago? She was talking to Tennessee, Florida, North Carolina. She was asking them, what are you doing? They're like, we're not doing anything. You're not providing anything for your teacher? No, they're to teach it how they see fit. I mean, and she's like, well, how do they feel about that? Stressed, ready to quit, is what she heard, because they were supplying them with nothing.
But it sounds like what you said earlier, the DOE here meant for that, or they rolled it out the same way.
Right.
But we changed the delivery model, so to speak.
Exactly. And I know I've had people call me and say, what are y'all doing in Newton County? I had somebody in Carrollton who called and said, I hear y'all have done some units. My teachers are floundering. They're not, can we get a copy of them? And I'm like, no.
For a price.
Yeah, I'm like, I would be glad to help you and show you what we do.
Copyright them.
But it does you no good for me to just email them to you. I mean, you really need to take your teachers through the process. I mean, so I really, commend Ms. Fury and the staff for really noticing that we had to put a plan in place. We didn't just turn our back and say, let 14 or 20-something schools do something different. And our concern was it's not going to be equitable throughout the district. So, that made me feel really good when she came back and said that. So.
Real briefly, I don't want you to feel like you have to elaborate. What do you mean by international alignment?
They'll benchmark throughout the whole country.
What it does
is it an international alignment, or
Yeah.
I mean, like Asian countries, Scandinavian countries, all the ones that we lag behind?
Right.
It gives us an opportunity to compare ourselves using state standards nationally and internationally, so that we can compete with the countries that are
Gotcha.
performing better than we are. So
Exactly.
we kind of have a level playing field now, sort of looking at it in the same
Whereas
plane.
before, every state was doing something different.
Right,
I
right.
think we should make evident the following. Georgia is one of 20-something states in the so-called Park Assessment Consortium, meaning it will be those 20-something states, inclusive of Georgia, that will be able to take Mrs. Jones' first grade class in Newton County and compare it to Mrs. Smith's first grade class, let's say, in Mississippi. And it'd be an apples-to-apples comparison in terms of performance. Obviously, difference perhaps in the two teachers, but in terms of what's being assessed, given what is supposed to be taught, an apples-to-apples comparison for the first time, really, in the history of the United States on a common curriculum. Likewise, this district, Newton County, would be able to compare itself to all other school systems in these 20-plus states that are in the so-called Park Assessment Consortium. Apples to apples, once again, language arts and math, elementary, middle, high. Likewise, the state of Georgia can compare itself at these various grade levels in these two subjects, English, language arts, and math, to other states within the 20-state Park Assessment Consortium. Now, you also should know that there's 20-something other states in another consortium. I forget its name, or I would recollect it here tonight. But it would not be an apples to apples, the Park Consortium, to that particular consortium, because they are developing their own assessments with respect to this common curriculum that all 40-something states are teaching. Might not seem a wise use of resources, but the argument is they want at least two different entities to be looking at this uniquely from each other, such that we can get the best of both worlds, so to speak, in terms of ultimate assessment of America's school children. And if I'm not mistaken, there are 46 states in the Union now who are doing the Common Core state standards, with the exception of Virginia, Texas, Alaska, and I believe Nebraska. Don't hold me to that, but I think Nebraska is one of the four that is not. But I think that's something that we need to publicly air. And I believe the assessments begin in 14-15, the 14-15 school.
And the difference between the two organizations, the Park and Smarter Balance, is the sort of assessment. Our assessment is going to assess the standards similarly to what we're accustomed to. They ask a question, you respond, whether there are multiple answers or whatever. The Smarter Balance assessment is the type of assessment where the question difficulty depends upon how you respond. So it's one of those types of questions that the level of difficulty increases the more questions you answer correctly. So they're really looking at two different sorts of assessments to see how each measures the standard. So you get sort of a different...
Almost sounds like a placement test.
Right, it is. It's similar to our STAR assessments, where they administer the assessment. If they don't ask the question, answer it correctly, then another similar question is asked until maybe they get it correct, and then they go on to the next one. Or they stop asking questions because of the frustration level. So that's the difference in the assessment types.
Thank you. Are there any more questions, sir? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Fury, any comments on the enrollment report?
No, sir, no change.
Thank you, ma'am. Old business? Ms. Sanders?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to refer to the superintendent at this time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sanders. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Policy G deals with various human resources aspects of the school board's policy. Prior to Thanksgiving was a very busy time for me and did not allow me to do something I've done upon return from Thanksgiving. Just this week, I've been in contact with Marvine Brooks, who is the GSBA consultant with whom we have been working and taking a total look at all of the school board policies before bringing them to you. Specifically, policy GAG that deals with staff conflict of interest is something that I have brought to her attention. Previously, she had indicated, as you have in your agenda tonight, that GAG could be removed in so much as it's covered by the Professional Code of Conduct for Educators in Georgia, as well as pertinent state law. That said, I did some query with her about whether it fully covered various aspects of a staff conflict of interest. And I have concluded, as she has concluded, that frankly, we believe, both she and I, that our district would be best served by retention of policy GAG, staff conflict of interest, as written, and as we have been working under for some several years now. So with that exception, I recommend the approval of all the policies in G as before the board tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Mathis. Are there any questions or comment on item A, old business? No questions, comment? I need a motion to approve item A as stated by the superintendent.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business. Item A.
Item A, Mr. Chairman, is a requested board action relative to resolution for the education SPLOST. As the board may be aware, just some informal discussion, just chit-chatting with you. Tonight, I'm going to ask you, by way of your agenda, to do a couple of things. One is to approve the SPLOST referendum, the call for the election in March of 2013. So that's one motion I'd like for you to act on tonight, followed by your acting on the intergovernmental agreement between the school board and the Social Circle School Board, which basically is just a continuation of the terms we have with them given prior SPLOST elections. So first things first, I would ask the board to approve the call for the SPLOST election for March of 2013, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Mathis. Any questions or comments on the superintendent recommendation, adoption of an educational SPLOST referendum resolution? Any questions or comments? If no comments, I need a motion to approve the superintendent's request
So
and a
moved.
second.
Second.
Motion has been approved, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Pose the same sign. Motion carries.
The second motion, then again, to be redundant, is to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the school system and that of Social Circle. And as such, that would be in keeping with prior such agreements.
Thank you, Dr. Mathis. Any questions or comment on the adoption of the agreement between Social Circle and Newton County School Board? No questions or comment. Can I get a motion to approve the superintendent's request?
So moved.
Need a second. Need a second.
Second.
It's been second. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Pose the same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on next to item B.
Dr. Carter.
Dr. Carpenter,
Mr. Chairman, there's nothing to add, items B or C.
B or C. Okay. If there are no comments or questions from any of the board members on items B and C, I request your, without any objections, we'll do both B and C on the same motion. No objections, can I get a motion to approve item B and C?
So move.
Second.
Second. The motion has been second. All in favor, let it be known by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you. Item D, Ms. Fury.
That we'll request action at the December 18th meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Item E, Dr. Carpenter.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, there's nothing to add in either item.
Thank you, sir. So we'll, I need a motion, if no questions, I need a motion to approve item E.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item F, Dr. Shelley.
Mr. Chairman, there's nothing to add to item F.
Any questions from the board? If no questions, can I get a motion to approve item F?
So
please?
moved.
Second.
Motion has been second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. And item G, Dr. Mathis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. I ask that the board approve recommendations made in tonight's executive session.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been second, so all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, this announcement, given the board's action just now, I'm pleased to announce that Mr. Alan Satterfield, current principal of Middle Ridge Elementary School, will become the school system's new director for special education, effective January 2nd, 2013. Meaning, between now and January 2nd, 2013, Mr. Satterfield will continue his duties at Middle Ridge as principal. And effective first thing tomorrow morning, Ms. Sanders in Human Resources will post the advertisement for the principalship of Middle Ridge Elementary. I believe we'll have some strong candidates, especially some strong internal candidates in this incident. That remains to be seen. May have strong external candidates as well. But we would expect, we would hope, to have a new principal on board at Middle Ridge on January 2nd, 2013, if not very shortly thereafter. So I want to make that public announcement tonight. And as we speak, as I shared with the board in executive session, I think Ms. Fury is going to text Mr. Satterfield, and he is going to communicate his current situation to his faculty directly tonight. I didn't want them to have to read about it in the newspaper either tonight or tomorrow, so he's probably going to let them know tonight. And I think we owe them that professional courtesy.
Thank you, Dr. Mathis. Are there any questions on other matters of interest, comments from any of the board members? If no further comment, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
All in favor? Meeting adjourned.